Recording. Okay, cool. Same old rules. If you have a question, use a raise your hand function, but we'll start out with Coach talking a little bit about Thursday's game at Vanderbilt.
Always a unique prep, not just because of the uniqueness of their gym, but just because, since Coach Ralph has been there, they're very, very unpredictable. If you watch every single one of their games, that they are really hard to predict. They may play. Last game, we expected to see all zone. We didn't see one possession of zone. And watched them in the games in between our two contests. They've played a variety of defenses. I do believe one thing that is true is they try to surprise you with some things. So we'll do our best to eliminate as many surprises as possible. It's an 8:00 game, which is a unique challenge too, because it's a long time to be in a hotel. It's too risky to go day of game these days with the way the rules are post-COVID. So you got to manage a lot of things when we play at Vanderbilt because of their unique team, their unique gym, and the uniqueness of the game. So, but we're coming off a win, which builds a little more confidence. I will tell you, after watching it back, I don't know that we played any better in the win than we did in the three previous close losses. We've still got lots to work on, but there were signs of improvement that I'm really encouraged about.
Porter?
Coach, talk about these 50-50 games, and in this point of the season, what advantages do you have that you've already played on going into your prep when these must win to get above 500 games?
I think the benefit is that there's not as much into the preparation. You're not having to watch as much film. There's only a few games in between. You go in watching the film, already knowing their personnel. We don't have to convince them how quick Harbison and Gerard are. They know. The personnel film will take 2 minutes, and they'll be, flashback to the game here. They remember how hard they were to guard. I think the familiarity is good for preparation. I also think it's why in our league games are so competitive, because we know each other. You know people by sight. You don't have to look at their pictures or pick them out. You know them. You've played against them. You've battled them. I think that's why our league games are so close. Again, case in point, last night, that Tennessee-Mississippi State game, there's not very many secrets out there. So I do like playing people twice. I almost, there's parts of me that wish we played everybody in our league twice. I know it's not possible, but it gives you the balance feel. It gives you a chance to see how you have improved. I know that we gained a lot between the two LSU games, and you can compare head to head. So I hope that our kids have respect, the proper due respect that Vanderbilt earned in Bud Walton, and we'll prepare for it accordingly.
And kind of along the same lines with the transfer portal and how that's changed college game. You playing these two teams twice, you only get some of these girls on film. You never really get to see them in person like if they were on a normal SEC roster. With that familiarity, how much does that help as well?
I guess people that are using the transfer portal a lot may be using it as an evaluation tool. We don't use that, so I don't know. I didn't thought about that, Porter. That's a really good question. You'll cause me some thought on the way to the luncheon today. I'm sure it impacts some people, but I get so caught up into watching us. I don't necessarily look at the other roster as much. Am I understanding your question correctly?
No, I'm talking about when you play a certain SEC game twice. So Vanderbilt, they have transfer portal players.
I got you. Yeah. That makes a lot more sense. Yes. Sorry, I was on my head was in a different place. Film, everybody always says film doesn't lie. Well, that's a lie. Film can lie. You can watch film and you can go, oh, that kid doesn't look very big, or that kid doesn't look very fast. And you get him out there on the floor and you're like, Coach, that kid's way better than you said, or way faster, or way stronger. I don't care how tall she is. She plays bigger. Absolutely. Obviously, those two kids were two of the best players in their respective leagues, but I never watched them play until this year. and seeing them on film, it gives you an idea, but film does lie in some, at least distorts it a little bit. So, I think that carries great value. That's even a better question now that I understand it.
The last thing I got is just I wasn't able on the post game, but there's obviously there's been a lot of chatter and stuff, and for you and your program, the first time you've really, and your players like Michaela and Aaron had to withstand this kind of heat per se from outsiders. How has it been for them now? It's almost the point now you've always had their back. Now it's the time for them to really be like, hey, look, enough of this noise. Now it's our turn to have his back.
Yeah, I encourage them not to get in a mess with that. I mean, you're talking about, we say this all the time. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, just not your own facts. And I think anybody that has got caught up in it is, they're not looking at the facts. I'd be happy to sit down and debate it with anybody face to face. I'm not going to do it in a social media format. But like I said in the post game, I think it's a sign that the people are paying attention and they care that. But again, we haven't lost a game that we were favored in yet. That's where I get this. I'm like, I love it that we expect to pull off all these upsets, but we haven't had a game that we've lost in which we were the favorite. That's all I say to our kids. I mean, let it drive you or let it kick you down, one of the two things. But I sure hope the kids got better things to do than I'm not going to go Mike Gundy and say I'm 50 but I can handle it. It's a sign. Every great coach I know has somebody that doesn't like them or want them there. And I'm not saying I'm a great coach, but if there's somebody that wants to have a debate, let's get the facts out. But everybody can have their own opinion. And I love it that people care. You can't have it both ways. You can't ask for people to care about your sport, and then when they do care, not respect their opinions. But again, let's get the facts right. Let's not get non-factual stuff going that people gain traction on. So I know my kids have my back. I've seen it 100 times. I don't need them to go out on social media and announce it. Sometimes I do that in their world because it's the only way those people will listen. But you'll not see me involved.
That's all I got for now.
I appreciate your support, though. I did read that, so thanks.
Hey,
if you need some more facts, let me and Kylie know. There's some good ones out there that haven't ever been talked about. So let me know if you need them.
All right.
Got you. Christina?
Yeah, Coach, I've got a couple questions about Erin. We haven't talked about her being on the top 10 for the Katrina McLean Award yet. She's up there with some really big names with Angel Reese, Celia Edwards, people like that. Just what does that mean to you, and what does that say about her to be included in that?
I thought that was a great going hand in hand with what Dudley what we're just asking. Somebody was hammering us for not developing our players. I'm thinking Erin's just been recognized as one of the most improved players in the entire country. It was perfectly segued right there. I love it for Erin. I mean, when we went and started recruiting her, just the circumstances on how we were able to get her to come even and stay. I just think her story should be told by more people. I think a lot of people would have transferred. I think a lot of people would have quit basketball. I think a lot of people would have, just not just basketball stuff, just her having to mature at a very, very young age. So happy to see her receive some notoriety. That is an unbelievable list. It created a really unique opportunity because I went to her. I said, hey, by tomorrow, I want you to know who Katrina McLean is. Mm-hmm. I want you to be one of the people on that list that if asked, and not only did she come back, she came back with stuff I didn't know. Like she knew deep background stuff. She went home and took it very, very seriously. So, I'm so thankful we're going to get to coach her again next year. And this is not her last time because we're again, and I think I did say it on one of our deals, I think we're getting a chance to see a kid start to really mature and show you what it looks like if you will go through those hard times. And I never thought Erin would run from tough times because she's been through them. She ran right at it. And, as a result has become a player that other people's top of the scout. I mean, she's getting double teamed now. Every time she touches it in there. And I'm happy that the national perception is what we've had for her. as the last 2 years have progressed. The injury setback, I think, probably kept it from happening last year. But I think it's also part of the reason I think she wants to come back next year and even build on what she's got started.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the injury too, and just how that has kind of shaped her career.
It was significant. It was one that, for a kid that plays her style, especially having to be undersized guarding big kids, when you have no leverage and no ability to use your legs, which with Erin, is her strength. She has a tremendous strength in her lower body, and she's hard to move. So I think it was during the time of the year that it came, as we were going down the stretch, she felt like she wanted to come back and help her team. So she probably rushed it a little bit. I think if it would have happened in the off season, it probably would have healed faster. But I think it was a 8 to 10 month recovery in which she played 4 or 5 of those, months. So I just think it's a testament to how much of a team player she's become. You saw her crying on the bench after the end of the Ole Miss game. Erin's never cried after a win or a loss. So I think that shows you how invested she is and how much she wants to. She truly does. She said, I want to leave a legacy at Arkansas. And she's well on her way to doing that.
Dudley?
From the outside, we can see the big things, and I'm sure all things are big to coaches, but, whether it's the turnovers or the free throws. But during that 4-game losing streak and getting it stopped, were there some little things that do some inside basketball for me? Were there some little things that kept from getting the wins?
If you'll go back and watch some of our body language and our reactions to bad things, it was awful. You can't hide body language. Your body reacts so quickly that your brain's not smart enough to say, hey, don't show this emotion. But in those 2 of those 3 losses, there were very clearly defined moments in which a mistake was made that was crucial, and our reactions to the mistake were not what you hope for in a team. We pointed that out during the break. We had another potential crucial error the other night against Auburn, and our reaction was completely different. Teammates rushing to their teammates' side, offering their condolences, offering their help, being good teammates. And I do not discount the fact that that's why we got the break that we did get. I think it comes around. I think basketball comes around to you. We got bad breaks. We had some things not go our way in 3 of those 3-point games. We won 1, we lost 3. We had 4 3-point games out of 5. We were 1-3 in them. The way we reacted when bad things happened. The other night, something bad, really bad, potentially could have happened. We get an intentional foul called. The other team gets a chance to substitute the free throw shooter because of the way the rules are written, and an 85% shooter misses 2. And then when they get the ball back, we go out and get a 5-second count. We haven't worked on that. It wasn't like we went over there and we said, hey, make it hard on them. I mean, we were still up 1. We were just trying to be in good defense. But because we were together, we weren't in reactive mode. They were. I think when they missed their 2 free throws, go back and watch their reactions. It was over. And then they couldn't get the ball inbounded. We weren't really even trying to keep them from getting it inbounded. So I think the breaks work out. So, Dudley, the inside basketball is it's not always X's and O's. Obviously, the free throws is easy to point. The stat sheet is so easy for people to grab and go, oh, there it is. But so very rarely is that really what it was. The one thing, too, let me point, and because you asked a great question. The last thing, and I said this to the team, and I haven't said it out loud, but I want people to know it because, again, we've got people that are paying attention. Y'all know that we started 2 weeks late. We've talked about it throughout the year. To not peak in February. We want to peak in March. So we are always running 2 weeks behind. There's a lot of teams peaking right now. This is where we've been peaking in the past, is in February. But that's what we are missing. We are missing NCAA tournament wins. That one I got no argument for. We haven't won yet in the NCAA tournament. I could give you some context and say that I think our 2020 team would have. That was a pretty good team, don't you think? And had we had a tournament, do I think we would have won a couple of games? You'll never convince me that we wouldn't have. And had you do that, then you get to host in Bud Walton Arena the next year instead of having to be in a neutral site in which you've been quarantined the entire year when we hadn't been. I think we would have won in Bud Walton Arena. So I'm not making an excuse. We need to win NCAA tournament games for sure. Thus, that we're starting 2 weeks later than we always have. I think there are some teams peaking before we're peaking, and I'm okay with that. If that means we lost a couple of games that we might not should have, that means we need to win a couple of games down the stretch that we might not should have, so that we peak at the right time. And again, just a reminder, we're chasing history and trying to be the first team that would have qualified for 4 NCAA tournament teams here since the SEC era. Ever, period. Never, not even in the SEC area. Arkansas has never had a team go 4 straight. And y'all know we were going in 20, so this would be 4. That's the perspective I want our kids to keep. That we are where we're at because of where we're trying to go. I do think some of the teams we're playing may be peaking right now, where I hope we're peaking 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Does that make sense?
Anything else, Dudley? Cool. Brett?
Hey, Mike, I don't know if you've been asked about Sam after some of these games. So she took a real awkward fall at Auburn, but she was able to come back. We've seen her on a bike at home during the game, but she was able to come back. She does seem a little less reluctant to get to the basket where she was able to get so many points. Is she just normally going through some of the bangs and bruises of the physical season, or is she somebody that you're kind of monitoring as well physically?
All the above. It's all the above. It's an accumulation of, her, getting into her sophomore year, the amount her body absorbs a lot of contact. She draws a lot of contact. She's on the floor a lot. She's having to be very physical on defense. So it's partly that. There is some things that we are monitoring. She's only getting maybe 1 or 2 reps in practice instead of getting 4 or 5 reps. Because we want her available for max minimums when it comes game time. Anytime she lands on that knee, it is going to jar it a little bit. And I think that's why you see her have to come out and she's ready to come back in shortly. There's nothing structural that we're worried about long-term. It's just, it's pain management. Every kid on our roster is managing pain to some level. And 25 games in now. Is that where we're at? We 18-7. Is that right? Check my Greenwood math there, Porter. 25 games in, we're all sore. I mean, I can't pick Bowen up with my left shoulder. We're all there. And I hadn't played 1 second. Not 1 second. You slept in 12 different hotel beds. You've been on flights, and again, I'm not complaining about our travel. Our university obviously takes great care of us, but it does wear on your body. And we're just there. But there's nothing, and she'll be the first to tell you there's nothing physically that she doesn't have a good plan for. Sam, she's always got a plan.
Final thing, maybe with the exception of that Tennessee game last night, it feels like every league game is an arm wrestling match and a free throw shooting contest. Is the challenge for you, or maybe any team, is to get more scoring out of core players, not just have one hot player, but get scoring out of 2 or 3 so that every game isn't 54-52 in the league, or you get a little separation where it doesn't come down? I mean, is that kind of the constant challenge?
Well, all you have to do, Kylie produces some great reports for us. And if you look at our scoring in wins and our scorings in losses, when we win, we usually have 4 or 5 in double figures. When we don't, we usually have 2 or 3 we lose. So, yeah. But you've got to ratchet the numbers down a little bit, Brett, because the familiarity is going to cost you 8 to 10 points a game. Just people with scouting, they're going to take sets away. And that's why I think you see the scores come down. Last night's game was double overtime. That's why 91-90 was it was in double. They played a full extra period, 10 minutes extra. But I do think points come down, possessions come down, which magnifies free throws. We will show today, and we talked to a few kids about it on the way home, the difference in making 4 or 5 of those free throws early on in the game. All right. When you miss 16 free throws, we missed 16. Let's say you made half of those, 8. If you make 4 of those in that first half, instead of them tying it up there with a minute to play, you're still up 4. The compounding effect of a team's psyche. Again, if we make half our free throws in the first half, we're up 20 at half. That's a different confidence than being up 12 or 13. So continuing to focus on it, continuing to get reps, and now just continuing to relax. I think it's become one of those things so many people talk to our kids about. Every shooting guru in the world is getting in their DMs and telling them, "Oh, I can go out and make free throws, and why can't you make it free?" They know. It's physical, some it's mental mostly, but very, very important. As you've seen, one possession games, a lot of people come down to, well, if you'd have made that free throw, we would have been tied. We all know it's more things than that, but that's the easy one to point out. And it's also the easiest one to correct. Work on it, have confidence, knock it down.
Thank you. Courtney?
Hey, Mike, I just have a quick question about Vanderbilt. Yeah, I know you talked about them a little bit at the beginning, but they're, struggling in SEC play. But I kind of feel like, especially just every year with how grueling the SEC is, you really can't overlook anyone like that. I mean, is that kind of the message for the team this week? Is that, look, the rest of the schedule, we got to finish strong. And like you said, we got to peak in March.
Yep. Well, I think that would have been the message had we not already played them and had to hit a half-court shot to beat them. I think our kids, especially our veterans, let's use Auburn. Auburn was, I think, 0-19 a couple of years ago, and we beat them but they're very good. The bottom of our league is so much better than the bottom of other leagues. And when you play the schedule that you have to play, when you play South Carolina and Tennessee like we did, and a bunch of other, Ole Miss is having to do it, I think Mississippi State, there's several teams. When you go through that physically and mentally, I don't care who you play next. I don't care what their record is. It's a hard game. And they're all great coaches. The universities all, pride themselves and support women's basketball. So if you get record watching, you can really set yourself up for some disappointment and some unrealistic. And you can't compare scores either. You can't say, well, we beat them by 10 and they beat them by 20, so we're going to beat them by 30. That doesn't play ever, but certainly not in this league. And your observation is 100% on that. Again, had we not played them, I still don't think we would have had to convince the upperclassmen. And just wait 2 weeks from now when we get ready to prep for Texas A&M. That's a completely different team because they've got 2 kids back that haven't been playing all year. So that's the other part about playing in an unbalanced league that's not head-to-head. Everybody play the same people the same number of times at the same location. I've always tried to get our seeding within our league tournament done differently because, again, none of us have played a balanced schedule, yet we go straight down the 1 through 14 seeds. There's some teams whose 7 and 9 are way better than somebody's 9 and 7. So you got to know the rules and play by the rules they give you. But I certainly think looking at where you're at in the standings, that's the conversation I have with people every day. Our kids wake up with a number beside their name every day. There's not a lot of insurance salesmen and doctors and dentists and business owners who have to wake up every morning with a ranking beside their number and their name. So I think giving our kids perspective, which is what you're talking about, is really important for us as coaches toward their mental well-being, their physical well-being, their emotional well-being. And that's why we try to keep people really aware. And I think as a result, Courtney, it keeps our kids respectful of other teams. They know how hard Vanderbilt works. They sensed it here. So we won't have that this week. But that's a cautionary tale for anybody to not judge anybody or any person by, because not all win-losses are created equal. They're all a little bit different.
Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
And then Porter, you have another one?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Courtney asked, you brought up the Auburn game from last year, and just another insight that I picked up was just the fact that you have a coach that's just hungry for a win and her players are wanting to play for her so bad. And just after that game last year, just how dejected coach looked, and maybe similar instance this year with Vandy. And having somebody like Michaela, Aaron, who have played in a game like that and keeping that mindset of what it's like, you're going to catch somebody in a corner. How does that help as well when it comes to prepping for a game like this?
Well, I think it helps everybody, but I also think it allows our kids, to look at it from the perspective of just because you beat somebody in a game, it doesn't make you better than them as a person. I don't want our kids walking around at the SEC tournament, see somebody in an elevator and think, oh, we beat y'all, we're better than you. It happens as coaches at Final Fours, and some people don't learn that. The difference on whether one basket goes in and does not doesn't have anything to do with a team or a program or a university or a fan base being better than another one. I think it helps our kids have balance and have perspective that when we do win, we win. Like the other night, I talked to Johnny after the game. It's 2 years in a row now. It's come down to the buzzer, and Johnny and I have been on the same staff. We've spilled blood in the same arena a number of times. So I know how you feel high to low. Y'all saw it in me last week. It was as low as I've been as a coach, and you can flip that around, but it is an emotional toll, and I don't want our kids to ever change that. I want them to feel, because that means they're invested in it. I want Erin to cry when we lose a tough game. That means she's invested. I want them to celebrate when we win a big one. That means they're invested. So, but I think those coaches going through it, we've all been there. We've all lost tough ones. It makes you stronger if you can handle it. If you don't, it'll grind you down. It'll polish you up if you can handle it, and you'll get some breaks to go your way. It all equals out. If you stick around and you keep working and you try to improve, if you just let it beat you down, those are the people that get out of this profession or burn out or make a poor decision and get fired, So I think it's just like everything else we tell these kids. The game is certainly a reflection of how you're going to live the rest of your life, how you choose to let it affect you. So I'm glad we have adverse conditions, because that tells me that later on, these kids, when something in their life happens, they'll have been through something like that before. That's why I don't try to protect them from it. That's why I don't try to shy away from the conversation. Let's have it. It'll help you the first time you get in an argument with your partner, or the first time your business is facing a tough quarter, or whatever perspective of surgery. Riley's going to be a doctor. You think I don't want Riley prepared to handle a situation as a doctor? Sure, that's what we all hope for. So I've been coaching just long enough to start to hear some of those stories as a head coach. Start my 10th year. So I've got kids who are starting their lives. They're starting to have babies. They're starting to have big jobs. And to hear a text from them, or get a text from them, or a voicemail saying, hey, coach, I had a big moment at work today that reminded me of something you said before we played in the Final Four. Yeah, that's why we do all this. So that makes up for all the trolls out there on social media.
Good luck, coach.
Appreciate y'all.
Great. Thanks, everyone. This is a great
right.
call.